Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network. And joining me to talk Texans is the host of Kickin with Kunkel on YouTube and recent Fox 26 sports director. You guys know him out there if you're a Texans fan, Astros, Rockets as well. He's a 15-year vet of the TV sports world. It's Will Kunkel, and it's a pleasure to have you, Will, on the show. Good to see you.
Robert, my boy, man, thanks for having me. I'm glad we get to talk some Texans. It's been a minute since we've talked a lot about Texans around here.
I know I could ask you about anything, but the Texans, I think I'm kind of getting in that little point in the whole Texans deal where I'm just like, I need a little Texans fix right now between all the OTAs and before we get into training camp. But, you know, this is the first time you and I have spoken. I feel like we have a kinship because we're both casualties of the same company. And I'm going to save that story for later because, my goodness, we're only 2 weeks away from Texans training camp. And you've spent a lot of time at the Texans facility over the last couple of years. Did you see a difference? And this is the thing that I'm just dying to ask you. Did you see a difference between a Bleav Slowik and a Nick Caley atmosphere at the facility? Was it faster, slower, more regimented? How would you describe it?
I think it's too early to really see the differences. I think, you know, like we'll really see it when the season starts. But there were noticeable like intricacies that were a little bit different. In particular, it's in the offensive line room, but I actually attribute that to not having Laremy Tunsil as their leader right now, but new leadership in there with Cole Popovich and the new linemen is the fact that they seem to all operate together. They move together versus individually. And I don't mean when they're blocking. I mean like when they're going out of the bubble onto the practice field, when they're moving station to station. They seem to operate more of a unit that way. We haven't seen like Nick Caley do much, but we have talked to the guys. And the guys have all said, it was one thing like super interesting. I think it was, and I'll forget Xavier Hutchinson, Nico Collins, and I think there was one more, all said that this year with Nick Caley, they think that the biggest difference, not comparing him to Bobby, this is not something they would really do, but they all kind of went out of their way to say that they're going to be in the right positions this year to where they can all flourish. It's like when you read the Bible and like all the stories kind of line up and they're coming from different people. It's like all these people are all saying the same thing. It means Bobby didn't really have everybody in the right position.
That's the feeling you got when you watched the team last year. That's for sure. And I'm just curious also, because this was a big story. Were you either concerned or surprised by the CJ Stroud injury, Cloak and Dagger that was going on? Or does Houston sports fan just have some Astros medical PTSD going on?
I don't understand why they have to play so coy with it. Like, say he hurt his shoulder or his shoulder got strained or whatever it was while he was lifting. He's going to be fine. There's no concerns. He's just not going to throw it for a week. Like, okay, cool. Then we can move on. I don't understand the coyness. I even asked DeMeco, did he get surgery? He said, I'm not going to answer that. Like, we're going to move on. He didn't throw. They didn't really address it. I don't understand why they have to be so secretive. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not hockey. It's not in the middle of the season. It's not like upper body versus lower body. Like, there's no reason to. So I was nervous only because I was led down to like a blind path. And none of it made sense to me. So I thought it was just handled so weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the communications departments and the medical departments in Houston sports, but this is something I don't ever recall from past years and decades of watching Houston sports.
Nick plays everything tight to the vest, and I understand why. It's a competition league. Like, right, I get it. Like, you don't want your card showing. There's just some things like you don't have to do that in this situation at this time of the year. In the mid-season, like, cool. Like, I get it, 100%. You don't want the other teams to know CJ's got a problem. But if he doesn't have a problem and we're in June, like, who gives a damn?
It's very bizarre. Let's go to the stuff that I think a lot of fans are dying to find out. Of the Texans rookies, who's impressed you the most? Have you had a chance to be impressed by anybody yet?
Again, like, I've been around the league long enough to know that minicamp don't mean anything. Training camp almost don't mean anything. Like, it just doesn't matter. I've seen several training camp superstars and Pro Bowlers that don't do anything during the regular season. when we do get to training camp, I just want to see, like we saw red flags last year with the offense and the offensive line in particular during training camp. I just want to see if those red flags are still there, what's different compared to last year, because you also have to keep in mind, like this defense is elite. So any offense is going to struggle, but you want to see the offense be able to hold their own a little bit more than they did last year, because last year I think they were in Ohio after the Hall of Fame ceremony. They had like one day the offense looked great, and it was like, oh my God, here it is, which kind of showed you that every other day they just looked bad. So I'm curious to see if they hold their own more often coming into this season.
Any disappointments from either the offseason or anything that you saw as far as the, practice sessions or anything like that?
I'm hesitant to criticize the way they handled the offensive line because I don't know what the answer is. So if I don't have like an alternative, then I usually don't pound someone for getting maybe it wrong or not bringing in the big names. I don't know all of it. There's a lot of things that go into the salary cap. There's a lot of moves that they did make. I hope that they got the offensive line right. And I guess we're going to find out. And if they don't, then we can, hindsight is 2020 and we can go back and we can criticize. It's easy for us to do that in the media. So I hope that they got the offensive line right. I'm always a little skeptical because they haven't gotten the offensive line right for years, and their talent evaluation at that position has struggled for years as well.
Yeah, we got to get more into that in just a second. But just a quick reminder for the listeners, give me your Texans takes. Let me know in the YouTube comments if you're an old school Houston Oilers fan. And frankly, if you're just a football fan, watch my interview last month with Oilers cornerback Steve Brown. I just want to direct more people to that because it was just such a fun interview. Fantastic. He was the Jonathan Joseph of the 80s Oilers and tells stories of playing with Earl Campbell, Warren Moon, and Bruce Matthews, some Hall of Famers there. Also played for Oilers assistant Nick Saban. Perhaps you've heard of Nick Saban. He won a Super Bowl in St. Louis. He acted on Miami Vice. We got a ton of good stories there. As always, support us and get updates on every show we drop by subscribing on YouTube and your favorite podcast app, and help us with that quick thumbs up. That's always a biggie. All right, Will, let's get to this offensive line, the enigma of the Houston Texans this year. What did you learn from who played and where they played in minicamp? Is that something? Did you find out anything from that?
It's like so hard in minicamp, but I think Laken Tomlinson seems like he's getting a little bit of a nod, at least at left guard at this point, and then at center, Jake Andrews. So that was surprising versus Jarrett Patterson at one of those positions because he earned time last year during the regular season. When the pads go on, though, that's when we're going to figure out like who's for real, who's going to play where, because like offensive line and defense, you learn when the pads are on and then you get physical. And again, you can't really do that in training camp because of the new CBAs, and you don't even do it in practice, although you do a little bit more DeMeco than some other teams around the league. But I think those two names stuck out the most.
Yeah, if Texans fans took a vacation in June, there's a guy named Jake Andrews that played center over Juice Scruggs and Jarrett Patterson. This is a Patriots 4th rounder 2 years ago out of Troy who comes off waivers after 70 total snaps in 2 years. Lance Zierlein graded him coming out in the draft as a backup type player. And, I know Popovich coached him in New England. It's just still weird. I mean, is this a bad sign for Scruggs and Patterson right now?
Were they good enough last year? Like, you want them to be your starter, or maybe is Laken better? I mean, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things where you can't, like, if you go to baseball, for instance, you can't have Jake Myers be your best offensive player. That doesn't mean you don't want him to be good. You just need Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, and those guys to be their best because you know that their best is better. I don't know that we know who's best on this offensive line. I think there's just so many questions about like, who is the best. Like last year, you needed Laramie Tunsil to be your best offensive lineman. You knew he was your best, and that when he was at your best, it was the best. So and right now, it just feels like, I don't know, maybe that guy, maybe this guy, maybe that guy, maybe this guy, and trying to find the right combinations. Because as much as it is 5 individuals, you have to find the 5 individuals that play the best together. That's the ultimate goal in the offensive line.
All right, I'm going to give you my argument for giving Juice Scruggs a chance. Last year, he was in a mess of an offensive line situation where there was bad communication. He was part of the bad communication issue, but we know that the Texans weren't satisfied with their offensive line coach. The offensive line coach had one foot out the door. And Juice Scruggs was a talented guy coming out in the draft, a second-round player that a lot of people thought was a real center in the NFL. The other part about the Scruggs situation is if CJ Stroud's going to take over more of the offensive line calls and not Scruggs, well, that takes something off his plate that maybe he wasn't that good at. Jared Patterson might have been better at that. That's why they might have gone with him over Scruggs as the season went along. But maybe that's the reason why Scruggs could do better in this situation.
I think it's a great point. And I also think everyone's going to get a shot at that position or whatever their position is. I don't think DeMeco is coming in, or Cole or Nick or anybody's coming in to training camp and saying, these are our 5 guys. That they're solidified. Someone has to take it away from them to get any playing time there. I think everybody's going to get a fair shot at most of the positions on the offensive line.
They seem to be leaning towards Blake Fisher from what we saw in minicamp. You know, he would have been a college senior last year. People forget maybe how young he is. He got a trial by fire with 2 starts against the Chiefs and 1 against the Ravens. I mean, you know, he just goes right into the flames his first season late in the year. Did you see anything different with Fisher in the last couple of months? Has he come in looking better? Is he come in looking stronger? Body change? Anything different with him? Because he's still such a young guy.
He is, and I think you're right. And I think it is also unfair at times to judge some of the guys last year because if they were young, they hadn't seen it before. The line was a mess. The offensive play calling was a disaster. So it is a little tough to judge them. I haven't seen much different from Blake yet, but not because there isn't anything, just because we haven't had the opportunity to really see some guys, put anything on film at this point.
Yeah, fans that remember Dwayne Brown's rookie year, there were a lot of fans that were, what do we do with this guy with the first round pick? He didn't look like the guy at all, and then he turns into a fantastic left tackle. So, the first year for a tackle is always difficult. So I think, I'm interested to see what Blake Fisher is going to do. I am concerned about him. I do like Titus at right tackle, Will. I mean, I still feel like, this is a guy that's getting paid like a right tackle. I kind of want to see him play right tackle because I trust him where there's not a whole lot I trust right now.
The way I think DeMeco, Cole, and Nick are going to go about this, I touched on it earlier, is I don't know that they're going to put individuals in their best positions as much as they're going to put people in the best position for that unit, if that makes sense. Anything to make the whole unit its best. Some guys might be out of position compared to what their best is, but if it makes the line better, I think they're going to do it. Whatever that might be.
Is there a position besides offensive line where you have legitimate concern with this team?
I mean, I think it's fair to be concerned about the wide receivers. I know everyone's excited because they're young and there's a lot of unknowns. So it's kind of like rolling the dice and like, holy crap, we could win the lottery with these guys. But they're young. They're rookies. Like, who knows what we're going to get? We have no idea. Christian Kirk is a fine wide receiver. I don't know what we're going to necessarily get from him. And again, CJ, he regressed last year. I know everyone is super hesitant to talk about that. And there are reasons why. It's not because he's lack of talent. There's 100 reasons why. Football's the ultimate team sport. The guys around him let him down. The play calling let him down. All of it. But the offense as a whole and the wide receivers, because they're young. And until you do something in the league, why would I have faith that you're going to be good at the highest level?
Speaking of wide receiver, John Metchie on the roster, but who could be the biggest names we see cut before the season? Is Metchie on the chopping block potentially?
Yeah, I don't think Metchie makes the roster. Doesn't mean he won't, but you have someone like Braxton Berrios who plays great special teams. Like that's a roster spot you're not getting rid of, or you're not getting rid of a player that can fill that roster spot. So I'd be surprised if Metchie's on the team. And with Metchie, it always just kind of feels like what if, or he's not able to get open. And if he does get open, then he drops the ball. Like there's just too many lost opportunities, it feels like, with Metchie, especially with new guys coming in, because those guys are 100% making the roster.
Anybody else that you think could be a surprise cut later on?
Tight end is an interesting spot because they like Brevin Jordan. They re-signed him. Cade Stover, they like. He's young, and they're kind of stuck on Dalton Schultz. That dude's got to be better. Dalton Schultz was the biggest letdown last year. He had no interest in putting hands on anybody, no interest in blocking. He dropped a whole lot of balls, wasn't very good for whatever reason. He's got to have a better production year this year. Like that room has to be better between those three.
Does Metchie have any value if somebody loses a wide receiver on another team, or other teams just look at it and go, well, the Texans are kind of stuck. They're going to have to cut him, so we'll just wait it out and get him for nothing?
If a team wants him. Like the moment when I was in Carolina, I saw Scott Fitterer get a 7th or maybe even a 6th. I can't remember, but he traded Robbie Anderson to the Cardinals. If that dude's got value, like everybody can get value. Like John Metchie can go for something.
I've watched the NFL too long. They're pretty cold about this, and I'm not sure that they really feel like the Texans are going to have a choice with Metchie because of all the slot guys that they do have right now.
Yeah, it just kind of comes down to if a team likes them, they're like, I'll give you a 7 so that I can ensure my paws get on them.
I want to ask you about this cornerback they signed, Damon Arnette, whose wiki page has it's not looking good. 5 paragraphs under the heading legal issues. I'm going to put that in quotes. And this isn't minor stuff, Will. It's death threats, hit and run, meth possession. And I know it's just a flyer on a backup, but Will, we know Cal McNair's dad would not be okay with this. He was not about getting these type of guys. Are they that desperate for cornerback depth? I mean, I sometimes question, like, okay, you take a chance on a guy that's like some elite talent, but we're just talking about a backup here.
Yeah, I always hesitant to smash a guy, and I mean even the UFL didn't let him in because of his issues. I hope he's figured it out. I hope this is it. You never want to be proven wrong in a situation like this. I would fight back on the fact that it's like he's just a backup. I mean, if he's a nickel, you see a lot of time at nickel in the NFL. Now, granted, with all the extra safeties they have with CJ Gardner-Johnson, Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie, do they rotate with him a whole lot depending on what kind of base that they're in? I don't know. It's definitely a risk. He's got good leadership around him. I don't love the fact that maybe CJ or Will Anderson or Aziz or whoever is going to have to maybe babysit him. I hope he's matured. I hope he's grown out of his crap. But it's definitely a risk. And I mean, if you can play, you're going to get a chance. It just is what it is in this league and every league around the world. But I don't know that he can play. Like, that's the thing. He's never really been very good. But then it comes into, like, coaches are always have egos as well. They feel like they're the ones that's going to fix somebody. That's why quarterbacks, like, seemingly just get recycled around the league, especially if they're drafted high. Like, Josh Rosen got a whole bunch of chances just because he was drafted high. Coach after coach say, I can get him. I'll be able to win. I'll be able to be the guy that can fix them. So maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. I hope it works out. I hope he can turn his life around, obviously, but there's a lot of risk.
Yeah, this feels like just exactly what you would expect in the NFL. The Raiders draft somebody with all sorts of off-the-field issues. He flames out with the Raiders, and a Patriots or former Patriots GM in this case, or former Patriots player personnel guy decides they're going to take a chance on him later to see if he's got any juice left in the tank. I just feel like this is like cliche NFL from like the last 40 or 50 years. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll find, right, and I think that's what the Patriots kind of did so well, is they found those guys and at least harnessed their problems from the public to a degree. There was one guy, obviously, that we all know about, but we'll find out. You know, that's going to be one of those things where we look back and we'll say amazing or just whatever.
Yeah, like I said, the typical guy they were taking chances on was the Aaron Hernandez or the Randy Moss type player, which, those guys had already shown some elite talent, I think. And one of the things I did want to ask you about is, like I said, you've covered sports for a long time now. What is it like out there with DeMeco Ryans? I mean, we know DeMeco from his time playing there, but you've gotten to see him as a coach. What's the feeling and the vibes out there? What makes him such a special guy?
I mean, honestly, his vibe. He's just always smiling. He's upbeat. He's energetic. He's enthusiastic. The players love playing for him, but he holds these guys to a high standard. These guys do not want to go to training camp with DeMeco because he grinds them and he's going to push them. It's going to be hard practices. It's going to be hot. It's going to be tougher than most training camps around the league. However, they have bought into his culture. When you have Will Anderson and Aziz and CJ, they will tell you that if you listen to DeMeco, you will become better and we will win here in Houston. And they're on the cusp of winning. They just need to figure some things out. And DeMeco, I think, is the right guy for that job. He had to figure some things out with his coaching staff. He made the tough decisions because you're not just a coach, you're a CEO as well. And he got rid of Bobby. He hired Nick. We'll find out if it's the right call or not. He's never called plays in the NFL. But DeMeco has that kind of it factor to be a leader of men. He's always been a leader throughout his playing days, whether it be Alabama or Philadelphia or here in Houston. So he is a leader. A lot of things got to go right. A lot of other people got to do their job well for you to get all that credit. So we're about to find out because, he's not even close to being on the hot seat, but we're at the point in his coaching career where he's being forced to make decisions that you don't want to have to make, like getting rid of his friend Bobby Slowik, getting rid of Strausser in the offensive line room and making moves. And now I think they were the right moves, but did he make the right ensuing moves to replace them? And that's what we're about to find out.
What do you see as far as how the Texans are going to do this year? Because it's interesting. I think that the pundits sort of look at the Texans as they're about the same or even worse. I mean, Vegas has got them about the same or worse also. Do you feel like they're a little closer to the Chiefs and the Ravens and the teams that you got to beat in the AFC?
I don't think they're closer right now. I think by the end of the year they can be, but there's a gap. Like there's a 1A, 1B type of tier in the NFL. I think the Texans took a step backwards compared to what we thought they were going into last year. CJ's rookie year, they were a better team. Obviously, Bobby was good. What happened is a different conversation, but I think they took a step back compared to last year, but I also think they have the ability to get better than they were last year and even 2 years ago because the defense is that much better. DeMeco has been around. He knows how to adjust. If Nick Caley works, then they're better offensively. Is the offensive line better than the worst? Like there's a lot of room for improvement offensively, which is good, but they also have a very difficult schedule. So with them, I think they're going to win the division. It's just a matter of, are they at that next level to really compete for a Super Bowl?
Yeah, the defense took a step up last year. And in my opinion, it was the offense that took the major step back. But we were sort of like smoke and mirrors fooled with the offense the first year because, they had a lot of games where they just looked terrible. If you remember, the Carolina Panthers game, that was a disaster. There were other games,
Jets, Falcons, Panthers, like the worst teams in the league that year.
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely took a step back last year, but at the same time, if it's just like getting them to mediocre, that's all you're looking for, right? Well, just mediocre. Just give us a mediocre.
That's why I say there's so much room for improvement offensively that if the defense maintains, just by default, you're going to be better. It's the matter of, do you get to the next tier? That's the question. Like they play in a bad division, so don't compare them to the Colts, Jaguars, and Titans. That's not your bar. Your bar is the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Eagles. That's your standard.
All right. I told you I was going to get back to this. And, your fans know by now, Channel 26 eliminated the sports department after you'd been here for about 2 years. So, Will, I don't think I've told this story on my show, but a couple of decades ago, I moved to Houston to take a job doing Houston Rockets production at KTXH Channel 20, which was an independent at that time, but had broadcast Rockets games for nearly 2 decades. In the middle of my first season with the Rockets, Fox bought KTXH. They decided no more Rockets. And by the end of the season, they decided no more Robert as well. With no more Rockets, there can't be a Robert. So, Will, outside of 1 or 2 people, everybody I worked with at KTXH was gone. So you and I in this Fox deal, we're sort of distant cousins at that. We both got the chopping block hit on us pretty hard.
Yeah, man. It's the business. It's unfortunate. I was in the clubhouse with the Astros the other day, and a handful of them were asking me about it. I said, "Listen, man, it's kind of like you guys. Sometimes the math don't math." Kevin Love made a joke about that when he was traded the other day. It just kind of is what it is. Fox had nothing but great things to say, and they would love to have me back in the family, which I would love to go back to the Fox family. It's an incredible company. But the numbers didn't number, and so they made the decision that they made, and so be it. And so follow me on YouTube at Will Kunkel 5 at Kicking It with Kunkel, and help me launch this new thing that I'm doing, man.
Absolutely. And I can't stand what happened because it's not good for the profession, as a sports journalist my whole life. It's not good for the Houston sports fan either. I think both lose big time when you take sports out of a news station.
Yeah, I hope it's not the right move for the industry. I hope Fox is awesome, and I hope they do great at what they're trying to do. Obviously, I think sports has a place. I thought that we were doing some really cool stuff with Kicking It with Kunkel, and that's why I kept it going. I had a lot of people reach out, like, is your show going to continue? So that's why I have it now on YouTube exclusively.
Well, yeah, go check him out. And if you don't mind, I just want to share this one quick clip from an hour-long interview that I did yesterday with the manager who first took the Astros to a World Series, Phil Garner. I think you're going to enjoy this one, Will. He's a fantastic storyteller, so it's more than worth hearing stories about Nolan Ryan, Biggio, Bagwell, Clemens, and 2 of the most unforgettable games in Astros history, one of which is considered maybe the greatest game ever. Here's a Garner story from playing on that iconic We Are Family 1979 championship Pirates team with the late and soon to be Hall of Famer Dave Parker.
That was the era of the big boom boxes came in. And so if you remember the big cassette players that were guys would carry them and they looked like Volkswagens on their shoulders. They were carrying these huge boom boxes. Yeah. Well, in our clubhouse, Willie Stargell brought in one of those big old boom boxes, and the thing was probably 4 feet long. It was 2 feet wide and 3 feet high. It was almost like having a stereo system. And so Dave Parker always, he had a cassette that he always would play, Sister Sledge, a lot of the disco music. I took exception one day and said, we really need to have a cultural change here. And so I took his cassette player out and I put some Willie Nelson in there. And I've never been a huge country music fan, but I liked Willie Nelson a little bit. After listening to Sister Sledge for 2 hours every day, Willie Nelson was a nice little respite, to calm down a little bit. So Dave promptly, after listening to Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, he goes over, pulls my tape out and puts his tape back in, and it's some disco music again. So I see what he's doing, so I wait until that song's over, and I go over and pull his tape out, put it aside somewhere, and put my Willie Nelson tape back in, whereby Dave Parker comes over and takes the tape out and breaks my tape in 2. Well, at the time, I was chewing a lot of tobacco, and I had a big old wad of tobacco in my mouth, so I go over, pull his tape out, and just spit a big old loogie of tobacco into his tape and set it down. So the 2 of us went at each other's throats that day over the music on the boombox. Of course, we go out and win the ball game. It didn't matter. We were going to have the argument. We were going to win the ball game anyway.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
Willie Nelson or Sister Sledge? Who are you going with, Will?
They're so different. Like, how do you Sister Sledge? I feel like can get you a little bit more excited for a game versus Willie Nelson's more so calm. But maybe you need to be calmed down before a game.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, it's "We Are Family," Sister Sledge. That was their anthem that year. They are the "We Are Family" Pirates. Just fun stuff. And by the way, well, I don't know if a lot of people realize this. A big reason why that Pirates team won the championship, Phil Garner in those playoffs hit .472 with a 1259 OPS. He was clutch.
Damn, that's solid. That's solid.
It's just good stuff. And people they might not realize this, but the Astros, and we're going to talk about two of those games. The Astros have played in 3 of the, I think, 5 longest games in MLB playoff history. I'm talking about innings. There's only been 5 games, I Bleav, that it's 16 or more innings in the playoffs, and the Astros have been in 3 of those games. Recent Astros fans know one of those games, the 18 inning in Seattle, but we're going to talk about the other 2 because they're unforgettable for all the old time Astros fans. Just want to remind everybody again, it's at Will Kunkel V on X, kicking it with Kunkel. Anything else I can plug for you, Will?
That's it, man. I got a new TikTok. I got Instagram. So, kind of everywhere like everybody is today. But this has been a lot of fun, Robert. I appreciate it, dude.
Really appreciate you joining me. Thanks so much.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.